Today is a very special guest. Oh man, this person that we got on today, I can say we kind of grew up as coaches together. We kind of went through a lot of adversity together. We learned the ropes together. So this person that we have on today, Matt Thune, he's almost like a brother to me. And that's one thing that I love about coaching. Sometimes we get caught up in wins and losses, but I love to build those relationships, man. And you guys have been able to witness everybody we've been able to have on. We know, like, we personally have relationships with these coaches. So this is the thing that basketball has done for our life. I have a lifetime friend that was developed from coaching. So Matt, I'm gonna let you tell your story because I could get started and I could get a little emotional. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to you, and you just kind of tell everybody how you got to where you currently are now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. Went to study my undergrad degree at Indiana University, and always been involved with basketball, playing or trying to, open a door and get in. I think something about my story is I thought the door was closed, and I've been told no quite a bit. This is, 10 plus years ago. Just couldn't get an opportunity to get in, and decided to go to graduate school at the University of Louisville, and where DP was at the time, and ended up in his office one day. And we were talking. He was, is there an opportunity to help out? Like, I've been trying to do this. He was yeah, like, if you come to school here, like, we can figure something out. I'm going to talk to our head coach, Jeff Wallace, see if it's all good with him, but we'll find something for you to do. And kind of at time, and what I recognize now is, and we joke about this a lot, is he never really thought I was going to come back into the room. Sometimes you get help, and those people, whether it's practice players, managers, what have you, will be around for a few weeks, get a taste of it, and then I'm too busy. But I went in there, and I was hungry, and I really just worked for everything. Anything that he was, needing help with, or the other assistants with recruiting, or whatever was going on in the office, was willing to do it. And what I really found during that time, DP went to bat for me. He opened a door big time, and ever since then, like he said, we've been close. And through every step of the way, he's been there for support, give encouragement, try to help me grow. I think that, looking back on it seems like a long time ago.
I know.
But, DP, that first year we ended up going to the Final Four, the championship game, played Connecticut. And when we were down there was a moment, we were outside after practice and everything one time late at night. And he was telling me, all this hard work that we've been doing, it's going to pay off. Like, this is a year, something's going to happen for us. We're going to get a break. I don't know what that means, but let's just have faith in it. And, that conversation kind of continued in the off season, and DP got opportunity to go to Marshall. And that led to me being able to take his job at Louisville. And from there, just like I'm sure DP shared, Jeff's been great. He's one of my mentors. And just as he did with DP and everybody else that works for him, every year I was there, he just kept giving me more, bumping me up until he wanted to prep me to go coach, and he knew that was a goal of mine. So I ended up leaving Louisville to go out to Weber State in Utah. And that was a program that had an former assistant of Louisville, Beth Ann Ward, and her program, we were needing to rebuild things and get things on track. And really just, took the learnings, the teachings that Jeff had basketball-wise, running a program-wise, whatever, injected a little bit of energy and confidence into the kids, really got after it. And we had 3 of the best years in their program history. Coach Ord ended up taking a job at Binghamton University in New York. So I followed her out there last year. And then my head coach, Samantha Williams, I worked with her. We DP both did at Louisville as well. And she got the head coaching job this year. So along with Lindsay, who's in here at Eastern Kentucky now, and was given an opportunity to be associate head coach. And Sam is somebody that, again, just a relationship, stayed in there. We've been talking to each other for a long time. And she knows that, my eventual goal would be to become a head coach one day. So she wanted to give me that opportunity and kind of prep me along that course.
Nice. Man, nice. Phenomenal story. I actually want to go a little bit deeper on a couple parts of the story. So to start out, congratulations on becoming an associate head coach at EKU. That's a huge step in your career. But, you know, the one thing that I realize about you is, you know, you are kind of laid back. And I think a lot of coaches, they visualize coaches that yell, scream, have a bunch of energy. How do you manage players with your demeanor of a very calm, very laid back person? How does that become effective in your coaching style?
Right. And, you know, you're right on, right? That's my personality. I think to hit it off the top, it's just a little bit of kind of my experience with coaching. I had coaching like that growing up. It didn't work for me. You know what I mean? Like we had some instances that were not the best with you know, when I was a player, and I saw how different players needed something different. You know, everybody doesn't operate the same. Everybody doesn't take motivation the same. And I think that's something that we all talk about here and there. But what I've found through my time coaching is that, you know, if you're your true self, you're going to have ability to connect with these kids. That's what it's about. You got to take care of the kids. And, you know, if you're yelling at them and stuff all the time and on their case, chances are they ain't going to want to hear from you, you know. Not to say you can't, and there is definitely a time for it. You've got to instill discipline. But at the same time, you got to be a real person. And I studied psychology in college, and I think during that course, really using some experimentation, just different ways to approach people and learning how others are different. I really just try to be myself. That ain't me, right? I'm not going to be up in somebody's grill 24/7. So just being comfortable with my own skin, and that's what works for me. Now, I will say that, like, I've had to be a chameleon in different programs, right? Like, when we were out in Utah, just, you know, Beth Ann's very similar to myself. She's a very much a player's coach, kind of like a mother figure. She doesn't really like to get on their case. Now, and I identified that, okay, I might have to step outside of my comfort zone in this scenario, and I had to be the disciplinarian there. But at the same time, I was able to balance that situation. So that was on the court, but 24/7 the rest of the time, whether it was in the office, hanging out with the kids, on the phone, I was there for them, a normal person. They trusted me. That was just my responsibility on the court. And I was still able to kind of develop the relationship as my own person. You know what I mean?
Love that. Love that,
Nice.
man. And I realized that you said, you know, on the court and then off the court, how you're able to distinguish what you need to be in that different type of situation, which is something that we all need to be able to do. Like, you can't coach the same way all the time. You have to be able to do different things at different times. So I love how you put that. So moving on more towards, you know, you went and you was an assistant coach at Weber State, Binghamton, and now you're at EKU. What are some of the things that you've been able to kind of tailor fit for yourself in your coaching identity that kind of gets you to stand out amongst the crowd of coaches?
You know, honestly, I think something that I always say is treat people, you know, good things are going to happen to you if you treat people right and you work hard. And that's kind of just what I tend to try to stick to. Keep it simple, you know. You know, where we came from working for Jeff, you had no option. You had to be proactive and work hard all the time. I think everybody has that in them. But I'm at heart, I'm a worker. You know, my thing is how we get from point A to point B, whether it's recruiting or something in the office, I get it done. That's just been my MO, is I'm going to try to get it done. And you're going to fail along the way and stuff, but just having the confidence in yourself that you can go out there and do it. The coaches that have come before us, you know, they all had to go through the same thing and lean on their mentors and stuff like that. Nobody's perfect, you know, and I think in sports, sometimes we idolize people, whether they're NBA, WNBA players or coaches. Like for me, it was like Bob Knight. That's where I grew up. Bob Knight didn't do things perfect. You know what I mean? And as I kind of have different experiences in this, I just be confident in what you can bring to the table and work hard, and things will come, you know. If you're not going to be confident in your abilities, and that's going to limit, I think, the impact that you can have and the responsibilities that are going to come your way, which in turn is going to affect your work ethic. And that might be a kind of a driving force to set you back. There's a lot of up and downs mentally with this, you know, winning and losing. You know, sometimes facts are facts, right? Sometimes a group of kids great to be around. Sometimes it's a struggle for a year. But you got to try to just what I do is just try to keep in mind, work hard, treat people right, and be there for the kids, and everything will work out.
Love that. Love that. And to add on to that, you have become a fierce recruiter at the international level. So, there may be some coaches on the line right now that may want to know a little bit more about that. I know myself, I'm very intrigued about how you've been able to build almost your own authority overseas and kind of get those kids to still come over. How many, I believe you guys have 3 kids that already committed that are coming from international. So how have you been able to build those type of connections?
Sure. So we got 3 coming now. We got 2 coming later. I think at every school I've been at, we brought international kids. So, and those kids have been from all different countries. And for me, I think it dates back to kind of my interests, right? When I was growing up in basketball, there was a huge presence in the NBA. That's when we saw the influx of international players, right? I'm interested in travel. I'm interested in people's differences in languages, stuff like that. So I already had kind of an interest as far as maybe an international player is concerned. I think that what I identified, and one, working for Jeff, he was a coach for USA basketball. I remember one summer he comes in my office talking about, hey, I got all these scouts for all these teams. Like, I need you to, scout them, try to find FIBA games, whatever. I don't know what's going on, give me something. And I'm like, okay, so I got to watch all these games. And what I'm identifying is, whoa, there's some kids we should be recruiting here at Louisville right now, right? On Brazil, at the time, there was several, and they're now here in the States playing. And it was shortly thereafter that I went to Weber State. So that kind of sparked something in me that, hey, not only were there kids for Louisville, but I was seeing a bunch of kids for our level at a mid-major. And so at the beginning of my time at Weber State, I was really invested in connecting with coaches overseas, trying to figure out the landscape. And I'll say that's ongoing. You might be recruiting in New York or Kentucky, right? And you got a grip on that state, but maybe your neighbor like New Jersey or Illinois, you're not as caught up on. It's the same thing over there. You can be good in Spain, but to get an idea of how all the countries work is going to take some time, right? So for me personally, there are a handful of countries in Europe that I've developed relationships with people over there. And we brought a kid from Mexico. She was playing down there, actually came to the States for 1 year of high school. Every kid's situation is different. I think you'll get, initially the thing that worked for me, building relationships with people, there was no immediate benefit to that. I wasn't like pulling in a player immediately. Like a guy I'm really close with and have been for probably 4 or 5 years. I just got 2 players for the first time coming in next year or 2 years from now, So investing in those relationships and trying to navigate the landscape and just being a real person with them and being invested in knowing who they are as a person has paid off, because there is a difference over there, right? I think here, culture-wise, we're just get something done fast, right? Let's get a kid to commit just to get him to commit. Maybe we don't even know him that well. Well, over there, the personal relationship's going to be huge, because at the end of the day, I think that for a European and international kid, for them to trust in the situation to come over here, they're going to go to a school where they trust an individual. If you invest that time into them, they're coming in. And I say it, all the time when I'm talking about this stuff. With an international kid, you're going to have to walk them through admissions, NCAA requirements. What does college basketball look like? You're their everything. If you provide them everything and give them the time of day, they're going to want to come. And, like this year, there was a young lady from near Russia who wanted to come. And we just didn't have any more spots. But over the course of developing, these relationships, kids also talk to each other. The FIBA circle is very small. These kids are in hotels together during these tournaments. They play against each other from the time they're like 13, 14 on up until they're adults. Trust me, they talk to each other. And if you can have one good experience with the kid, that is going to expand itself amongst kids from all different countries. And all of a sudden you have kids contacting you. And it almost can become a little bit overwhelming, because you might not know them, right? You got to do your research, but you'll find that you'll get some quality players contacting you from these countries. So I think, the biggest thing has been relationships. I do believe that you have to determine with international recruiting, is it worth the investment, right? I think that that's for yourself. Are you gonna build your knowledge and education, right? It could be language, culture, history of the certain countries. For instance, we had an Israeli student athlete, and she was strictly kosher. We had to make sure that she had the appropriate food, religion-wise, support in our community to be able to function, or it was not going to work out. So I had to educate myself on some things with her to be able to make sure it was an okay situation. But then going from there, if you can identify it as an investment, okay, and it doesn't mean monetary, right? It's not money based. It's not, I got to get flights to go over there. But am I going to take care of these kids? They might take more care in your program, right? There is going to be a curve when they come over here, and they're going to be uncomfortable. You have to kind of be a family figure to them and give them the time of day with every asset of their life so that they can, be confident and comfortable in your program. But I think too is what's the style of basketball? A lot of these kids over there, you go to practices, whether it be in, Italy, Spain, some other place, these kids are taught system basketball from a young age. A lot of motion-based concepts, a lot of pick and roll type of concepts. If you're running that sort of thing, they're going to flow seamlessly through it. Now, if we're running high-paced up and down the court, high-tempo basketball, they're going to struggle. That's not how it's played for the most part, and it's confusing to them of why would we do this. Like, even our basketball here, we break it down in the half court a lot with sets and things like that. But when these kids watch our games, they think that the game is really fast, and it scares them. So I think if you run a motion style system in general, a lot of Europeans are going to be favored to that, if that makes sense. And then, I think from there, if your program has enough, money to send you on a recruiting trip, prices have gone, obviously right now they're a little, unknown, but in a normal situation, if your program has a little bit of money, it's worth the investment 100%. You can make contact. People over there are more than willing to help you. I would say the majority of their contacts come from online, social media, email. But if you take the time to go over there and meet with them, it's like they're going to bring you into the family, honestly. And with the way flights are, you can get over to like Spain from the East Coast in like 6 hours. They're going to help you out with knowing once you get there, everything's cheap. Hotels, food, it's really inexpensive. So it's really just a plane ticket. I paid out of my own pocket. It's worth it. They'll take you around to the schools, to the clubs, to meet those coaches, to see players, what have you. National team stuff. There's FIBA tournaments if that's a time that you go over there. They'll set up home visits. They'll link everything up for you as long as you invest in that relationship. And I went over there in September, and it was awesome. I honestly, I went over to see a handful of kids, and came back with probably like 30 plus that are like, these kids, nobody knows them, but what I did find too is a lot of Americans will go to the same spot, right? Whether it's a FIBA tournament or a certain high school or something. And for instance, like in Barcelona, Spain, there's a school that generally every college coach goes to when they go there. And we were just talking about this. When I was there was probably 10 coaches at the same time, but Barcelona is a huge city. There's a ton of players over there. So I was able to go out with one of my friends I made a connection with and kind of get a grasp of other things. And I saw a ton of kids that are capable to play at any level here.
Wow.
Man, that was
learn something new.
That was phenomenal. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So, now noticing that you have these connections with these international players, what's a way that you feel like you should be able to coach them, to reach them? So, what are some of the things you're doing with your student athletes to pretty much reach them where they are? I noticed that you talk a lot about player relationships and building those type of relationships. What are some of the things you do as an associate head coach to build those type of relationships?
Sure. I think, the situations I found myself in have been different. I think that the team itself too, and how you recruit is important. When kids are open to coaching and things of that nature, it's going to be a lot easier, right, to build those relationships and instill culture. But what I really think it comes down to is trust. And through the recruiting process, if they have a trust in you that you absolutely got their back, you're working for them, and you care about them as an individual, I think when they come to your school, for any kid, there's a established trust there. There's a time equity that's been put in. And you're identifying at the same time that the kid is open to that as well, right? So it's kind of a working relationship at that point. And I think as they're there, you just got to, it's not always basketball, right? Checking in on them. Sometimes practices are hard, right? Maybe head coach has been on them for a week, and you got to talk them through certain situations, And as you continue to show that you got their back, I think it in turn helps your culture and helps them become comfortable with you. And that's just something, just kind of back to the beginning of our conversation. I think for the most part, I just try to treat everybody the same, whether they're a kid or friend, or we work together or whatever. I'm pretty consistent. And if you take that, we don't have to act outside of ourselves with these kids, just be a normal person with them and give them what you would any normal relationship. And that doesn't mean that there aren't, what would you call them? Like, there's certain, we're an authority figure to them in a sense. We have to tell them things to do. So there is kind of a boundary there, but that shouldn't affect, in my opinion, that relationship,
Love that. Love that. So I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then we're going to open it up for question and answer. So everybody in the crowd, just go ahead and start getting your questions ready. Now, as you talk about, this culture that you guys have been building at Eastern Kentucky, what are some of the things that you're doing to ensure that, you're building that cohesion and that continuity when you think about your team overall?
Sure. I think, the biggest thing here at Eastern Kentucky when we came in, and at the time last April, there was like 4 or 5 kids on the team. We had to go out and get recruits. So the biggest thing culture-wise is that we had to, throughout the year, establish a work ethic. That was a part of our culture that had to be there. Getting kids to spend time in the gym, to really, to preach to them about watch basketball, do these, and we're not all the way there yet with some of them. But as far as culture, that was the biggest point for us here. I think that situation changes, right? When I was at Weber State, we had a group that had been together for a while. Our culture was about trying to promote cohesion within that group. And I know that's a topic that a lot of people have, what do you do to try to promote that or build it? For me, and what I saw, like when we set our program records for the, most wins in season history there and all that type of stuff, what I saw is having kind of raw emotional conversations with these kids was very important. It tied them together. When the walls went down and we were vulnerable as a group, we got close. And some of those things were just, why are you here? Why is basketball important to you? Who taught you how to play basketball? And what you'll find is a lot of these kids, there's things that happen in life, right? And it'll expose itself. And it becomes a very emotional meeting, and when kids as a group, I think, put themselves out there like that, when you can make them comfortable to do so, that's when I really started to see this group come together, right? And we continued that in our program and throughout the years as we were going into the postseason. So, I think there's different ways you can go about those conversations, different topics that you may have. But at the same time, we incorporate like group activities with them as well. We give them tasks like, hey, y'all are on like the jersey committee. You know what I mean? Like we don't, we're going to handle it, but give them like responsibility. You 3 are in charge of finding, these are the options you got is shorts and jersey tops, shoes, all that. Get back to us and make some decisions on what you want to wear next year. Or, we had like a housing committee, like where they were in charge of placing the kids with roommates, right? And they took a responsibility in it. And also kind of a seriousness that they weren't just clumping kids with their friends. They were really trying to think through, okay, we got a freshman, so let's put her with the senior and, stuff like that. So kind of having those discussions with them in small group activities was key. We would talk about our goals, but I think one thing that helped was like we would have a lot of talks like, what are our goals? Okay, great. We have goals. Why? What does it mean to you to have this goal? And let's get to the feeling about it. And again, we tied into feeling, emotion, things like that. They would become, pretty close meetings where a lot was, talked about. And that's what we were trying to get to the core of. The moon goal, the process goal, all that was great, but it was all just talk. We needed to get to like what's inside. Why was one of our kids so hungry to get it done? And when 5 of her teammates learned something that they didn't know about her, it was huge. It was huge. And that's what drove us through some postseason runs there. And I think is really valuable. You can do stuff, push boundaries. We took our kids hiking on mountains because they didn't want to do it, and it got them out of their comfort zone. There's stuff like that in all of our communities that I think we can do to kind of push them to get outside their comfort. But there's really no right or wrong, right? Like, do as much as you can. Sometimes, like in New York, we were spontaneous, like use some psychology with it. Week's been hard, 2 weeks been hard. I'd be in the office saying, okay, let's go out. We're going to trick them. We're having practice, but we're going to Denny's. Like, let's go eat. You know what I mean? Like, who cares about basketball at this point? We ain't getting nothing out of them. Like, quit burning them into the ground because we ain't getting any progress. So, you can trick them, so they think, oh man, we're coming out here to have practice. We probably told them the first drill was their least favorite drill. And then 2 seconds into it, we blow the whistle and, hey, we're going to Denny's, go get your stuff. And they're going, rah, rah. And we're just chill and talk, for hour and a half. And that stuff, I like it. I think being spontaneous is good. Mixing it up is being good. I think that when you can give a kid something like that, that's when you can get something back.
Phenomenal.
Love it.
Phenomenal. So I have one more question, then we're going to move on to the crowd. So since I've been around you for years, been able to basically see you kind of grow as a coach throughout your journey, a couple of things that I notice is your resilience to adversity. You always find a way to come back. Like, what would you say to a coach that's looking to take that next step, or maybe they're not getting the break that they feel like they should get, or things are just not going their way? I noticed that you always came back to the office, and you had life issues. And congratulations on your engagement, man.
Yes.
Congratulations
Steph
on that
said
engagement.
congratulations on Facebook too.
Yeah.
Steph Norman said congratulations to you.
And Mary Beth said two of the best, Maddie and DP.
Mary Beth, that's my girl. All right, so talk to that coach that's really trying to make that shift, and that adversity is really weighing them down. It's like they got a backpack of emotions on. What should they do?
Man, it's tough. I think that, honestly speaking, kind of earlier in my life, had some stuff, run into with adversity, and it was just something kind of I had to build myself through. I think that in a lot of situations it could have turned the other way, and so from a young age, it was something that was kind of ingrained in me that I had to take care of myself, right? And my way of doing that was to work hard, and I don't think I could have got put in any better situation. Like, something I tried to not do with, I didn't ask for nothing. I just wanted an opportunity. And everybody at Louisville gave me that. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was Jeff or you or Steph, like right in, learning the recruiting ropes or whatever, like, I was really thankful for that. And when I got a taste of it, I just tried to work hard. And I think that if you can push through and just keep yourself working hard, good things will happen. Go back to what I was saying earlier. I believe in that. If you just, things will happen to you, but you can't treat others wrong because of it. You got to treat people right, and people will identify that. And, I feel that I've like everybody, we make mistakes. We don't treat people right all the time, but it's my intent, and, if you can ingrain a work ethic within yourself, whether it's basketball or working in an accounting office, whatever, you're going to get to where you need to be. And that doesn't, necessarily mean like the top accounting firm or whatever, like I was trying to get whatever I could in basketball, high school, whatever. That's what I wanted to do since the time I've been little, and just keep knocking the walls down and try to get through it. I think you just got to have faith that it'll work out. There's really no key to it, right? But I think you hear a lot of times people give up right before they're about to reach success. And, somebody that I saw firsthand that went to my high school, that wasn't an average basketball player, that got coached by the same man that's been teaching me basketball since I was little, was Brad Stevens. You know, he was at Butler then, and now he's with the Boston Celtics. And that is unheard of from, you know, where like nobody coaches college basketball from my town. You know, we had never seen that. And that didn't happen until I was a little bit older, right? As he started to get involved with like Butler and things. But what I saw is like, what are the chances? You know what I mean? Like it can happen. Like stuff can just happen for you. There was no like magical key he had. He just worked hard. He was confident. He treated people right all the time. He treated his players right, tried to establish a good culture, and look where it took him. So that's something I kind of like just look at from an outside view, right? And just have a belief that, man, if he can do that, like, why can't I be an assistant coach or what have you, you know?
Love that. Love that, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Having that crazy faith.
Man, and I will attest that Matt's faith is extremely crazy. Sometimes he will walk into the office, he would have these drastic ideas, and I would have to bring him back and say, hey, we got to do the scouting report for tomorrow. So I need you to stop thinking about all these different European ball screens and all this other stuff that you want to do. But it was great because it kept both of us creative, and we both brought a different piece of coaching to the table. So I miss those days, and I love that. So let's move to, all right, I think we have a question in the chat to start us off. So Coach Kev says, thanks for presenting such a great information. Thanks, Matt. When you are recruiting international players, are there websites that you could find top prospects and games to watch?
Yeah, I think some of the information is a little bit hard to find still, right? Now, if you are looking at a certain country, there are actually apps. So like if you wanted to follow Spanish basketball, there's an app, it's called FCBQ. And that has
wait, say that again, Matt. It's some people that's really trying to recruit these international players. So they need that one more time.
It's FCBQ, and it's an app on, you know, available on your phone, everything. But you can follow the games, box scores, kids stats. A little hard to navigate, but you can really start to kind of follow it for a long term. Kids, the stuff's on there from when they're really young until, you know, the women's professional leagues. So you can find that. YouTube has everything. If you're looking for at a certain country, look at the FIBA games. They're all on there. They're like archived. I don't know if I'm supposed to, if you're allowed to do this, but I try to get them off of YouTube so I can break them down on film and just kind of like cut kids' stuff up. And then there's also club games. So if you can educate yourself on like what are the clubs in the country, you'll be able to find their club games on there too. And so what I've done is try to identify, you know, 3 to 4 or 5 maybe clubs and kind of follow.
What's a good club we should be following?
Give you one I'm not recruiting. Like FC Barcelona, you know, like everybody knows that, right? If you look at FC Barcelona, they have young divisional leagues. It's nothing too crazy, right? These aren't like all world players, and they have different divisions. So they'll have like a professional division, then in their amateur divisions, there's, you know, Division A, Division B, Division C, things like that. So at any level you're trying to look at, you can find these kids. When you're looking at FC Barcelona, like on that app, FCBQ, you start to see who they're playing. You'll see who they lose to, right? And you can kind of research into those clubs as well. So I'll do that here and there. You know, might see that like Mataro is beating them every time they play by a lot. You know, Segle 21 over there is obviously a club that like everybody knows, and but they don't always win. They'll get beat by like 50, and you know, that's intriguing, right? Why is a club we primarily know lose by like 40 points all the time? Because there's better players out there, you know? So you'll start to see those types of things and be able to identify like, who's this kid? Find them on Facebook, social media. They put their stuff up there just like, you know, American kids, usually on Instagram. And you can kind of research a little bit more. That it's more of a working approach, right? I think that, you know, you can do, you know, websites to help out with. I always look at the NCAA website for admissions requirements because, for instance, like in Italy, those kids go to school for 5 years in high school. It's important to know, right? Where you might be expecting, they say they're 18 years old or whatever, they're not coming. They still got 1 more year of school, right? And so you got to kind of identify that within the countries over there to know kind of the landscape of, okay, that might be the flip. There might be a country that they graduate early, and you might be able to get in on them at a different time.
Nice. And try to learn the language a little bit. Don't be like Coach DP and go to
man.
Canada, went to Montreal. I'm over there. I'm looking at the signs. I'm like, yo, I call my wife. I'm like, everything is in French, babe.
Man.
I went to go do a home visit. The parents came out speaking French. I'm like, whoa, good thing my pops is Haitian. So we had a little Creole. So I was able to get in my bag a little bit and try to get that done. But man, do your research. Definitely do that research. Love that, Matt. All right, so we're open. Any questions? Go ahead, just take yourself off mute. Who's up? Who's
gonna break the ice?
Well, Coach Kev really broke the ice.
Oh, he did.
With,
Coach Kev definitely did.
Question in the chat, but who's gonna take them?
Hi, I'm Coach Lockett. I work with Junior NBA, former head coach at Trinity Washington here in DC. And my question for you is, what made international recruiting so viable for you and something that you wanted to kind of, delve into? And also, what are the differences that you see, whether good or bad, in the recruits that come play over in the States as opposed to stateside players?
Sure. I think that one of the key things was that at the mid-major level, we had to try to do something different sometimes in the schools I've been at to attract interest, right? And, especially like here at Eastern Kentucky at the beginning, they were 2-27 the year before we got here. And so kids in the region weren't going to be trusting or interested in what, necessarily in what we were doing at the level, we needed, right? So we knew that kind of going overseas, we might be able to find and locate and build some relationship with kids that were at the level we wanted to recruit to that would come right now because they would be presented with the opportunity. I think that also basketball-wise, like with what Jeff runs at Louisville, a lot of like quick hitter plays, and he's, very good at taking advantage of defenses. Something in the programs I've been in since, we run some motion basketball. So that finding kids who are very high level skill players, like shooting, passing, reading defense, stuff like that, just simple, solid, fundamental kids, is something that kids in Europe tend to have, right? They're good shooters. They have a very good IQ because they watch basketball, I think, way more than our kids do sometimes on the women's side here. They're invested in that. So in talking to them, like they're watching our WNBA and NBA and college games, but they're very, very much so watching the FIBA games over there all the time. And so having that IQ and stuff was important. And, over time of recruiting different kids and getting to know different areas, like for instance, Spain, we weren't going to be going over to Spain to find like a big, huge post player. Now they have them, but there's not many. They're guard heavy. So we needed guards in our program. We needed kids who can handle the ball, that had good court vision and could shoot it. And so, we felt comfortable to kind of go over there. For me personally, like kind of what I was talking about earlier, it's just a personal interest. I like people who are different. I like travel. I've always been interested, like when I was growing up, like the Dirk Nowitzkis, like the Pistons were, drafting, we all like the Darko Milicic thing and all of that. That was what was common and what I was seeing. So I think when I was getting into basketball and watching it a lot growing up, seeing a lot of influx of international players piqued an interest. And then just kind of through my college experience and stuff, it was just something that like, if it, it's working, but it also may provide the chance to travel. Like Coach Norman that worked with us at Louisville talks about all the time. Like basketball takes you all kinds of places. And it was intriguing for me that might be one of them to go internationally.
Do you think that, I agree that I feel like players in other countries that they have more of a basketball IQ. I think over here, fundamentals kind of seem to go to, to the wayside when it comes to, AAU. They're playing more, that 70-30 rule. Over here, we're playing, 70% of the time. And it seems like in other countries, they're practicing and drilling 70% of the time, and also watching basketball. So with that, do you think that either USA Basketball or FIBA will step in and kind of maybe start making clubs or put something put something in place that will kind of go the way of other countries like club basketball and things like that?
Sure, I have no idea. I'm sure it's been discussed, in some circles, but I don't know. I don't know if I really have an opinion towards that. I think that what's important is that we, in our youth leagues and in the high schools and middle schools, is that we have good coaches to kind of teach them the fundamentals. I think that, whether we're talking on men's side or women's side, that's something that's more lacking than it used to be when we were growing up. We used to go to camp and do a lot of the fundamentals. I think when I ran camps and stuff, that's something that I try to do. I know kids don't find it fun, and you still got to try to make it fun. But I think we do have a responsibility to try to encourage people to teach the kids these things, because one experience to me that stands out, and I DP may remember it. We were at practice one time at Louisville, and Coach Walls was like, "Hey, I'm going to make kids do jump stops and pivots." And he was like, "Just watch. I'm going to show you something. They don't know what a forward pivot is." So he got them all on the line and said, my first whistle, jump stop, forward pivot. And we had kids going all certain ways. Next one, reverse pivot. Again, there was a mixed interpretation of what that was. And for me being young at that time, it really opened my eyes to oh my gosh, we're a top, 25 program right now. And we've got some kids on our team that aren't, knowledgeable on exactly what the fundamentals of basketball are. So I think it's just more of a responsibility. I don't know if we'll change the landscape of, we do have people doing that in good level basketball. I think it just got to be across the board. We see a lot of the training things now, but fundamentals have to be incorporated.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Love that. So you're not teaching the double step back? You're not teaching that,
the 8 step?
The 8 steps. I see trainers teaching that all the time, man. I'm confused a little bit. I'm thinking maybe that's not a travel. Maybe it's a walk in the park. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which one is it? So
instead of walk in the park.
We're up. Who's gonna ask that next question? Let's go. Let's go.
Well, do you mind if I jump in there again? Sorry, I got another question. So when those international players come over here, do you assign them someone to be with? So, like an interpreter or something? And is it someone on the team, or is it multiple people to kind of help their experience?
Sure. We haven't necessarily had that. What's the word? We haven't been blessed with that opportunity to have an interpreter with our team. I know that sometimes that can happen. I believe I've heard about that happening. We have tried to look within the university, like here with our Italians and Spanish kids coming. We've identified people who are strong in the community here, and Lexington's right close to us. And there's a few organizations that have people working at the university that coordinate kind of with groups in Lexington, social gatherings that they'll be able to kind of mingle with. There are student organizations here as well. We found that we have professors at the school from both countries. We have tutors from both countries, and there is actually, a lot through international student offices that, as far as events and things like that. So we try to coordinate our best on that end. Now, within the individual team, where they're spending most of their time, typically what we've done in the past is, really just tried to preach to our kids, in the scenario that there wasn't already an international kid from their country, just to embrace the differences, right? Whether it's language or customs, even simple things like changing in a locker room. They're more comfortable to do that over there in Europe than kids are here. So they might act out of our US norms, right? But there's no poking fun. We have to help them to understand why we do things and how we do them. But there will be an expectation that there will never be poking fun, because we don't want them to feel bad or uncomfortable while they're here at all. And kids have been very and they've embraced that a lot when we've discussed with them and prepped them on who's coming to join our team. I think it's also been intriguing to them when they can learn about another country and, have a friendship with somebody that's from overseas, and they might, we've had kids go back home with them, like on a vacation or a spring break or things like that. So I think when they can, have a group that is easy to join and has kind of been educated on some things that may occur and how to handle those situations, it's helped.
Nice.
Definitely. Love that. Great question, Coach Tiffany. Who's next? Anybody else have any questions for Matt? This international recruiting is very, very intriguing, man.
It really is.
I think I'm gonna need you to go with me on the first trip, though. I don't know if I'm really comfortable enough to just get up and go yet, but maybe we could do like a combo type of thing, where we could do it together or something like that,
Yeah, as soon as we're able to, let's go.
Sure.
No doubt.
Sounds like a plan.
No doubt. Any more questions? All right, I have a question for you, Coach Thune. Oh, you had something you wanted to bring to the table? All right, so my question to you is, what made you go the route of video when it comes to getting into coaching? I know you were very particular about you wanted to learn more about video, and there were some things you wanted to do, and I was like, hey, you can have it. Go deep dive in, watch all the scouts that you want to watch. So what was it that really intrigued you about watching video?
So prior to starting with you, when I was trying to get an opportunity, I was trying to research how do people get an opportunity, right? And what I was finding at the time, like whether it was the NBA or college or whatever, like Eric Spoelstra, I was reading on like guys who had done it, right? Like Eric Spoelstra, he started in the video room. And I kept finding a lot of people that tied, like Frank Vogel, he was the coach of the Pacers where I'm from at the time, started in the video room for Rick Pitino, I kept finding example after example of somebody who started in the video room. So a little bit of it, honestly, was because that's just what I could find. That's how I saw entry level happen and what was out there, and I could read and watch. I think that a little bit of it was just by kind of like luck falling into there, but I do have a creative side, and so that kind of allowed me to get that out of my system. I think at the time I was doing it was when like the social media graphic video stuff was really like boom, like taking off. And did that mean I didn't know how to do it? I didn't know Photoshop or the video stuff, but I did know computers, and I knew that I could teach myself. And it was terrible. Trust me. It was like our first, it was terrible. Like our stuff we had to find people who could help us out like all the time. Right. But then in one situation, bringing a guy in that did help us out, he taught me a ton of stuff. He'd be in the office cranking things out and just, how'd you do that? How'd you do this? And he would teach me. And to the point where like I could do it on my own. And I still do like recruiting and things like that, because it gets a creative outlet and gets some stuff out of my system. But I think there was just kind of a combination of trying to find what were other people doing and what were my interests, and it seemed to line up. And I saw them getting into video and then going and trying to get into coaching jobs, because in the video room, you're watching basketball. You're cutting film up all the time. It was an opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm. You did your homework.
Yeah.
Tried to.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, like with you, man, like, with like all the scout stuff, like Sports Code was something we were using at the time. Never seen that. You were teaching me all about that, how to put a scout together, how we do player clips, what we're looking for, how to quick watch film. We were going through because we were still using the tape thing, like we had oh man.
Bringing back old times.
Now, what about that? What about that turnaround for an NCAA tournament? I mean, just think about, we have a possibility of playing 4 teams. So every coach wants to watch scouts for every single team. So we're sitting there and we're staying up all night long. If people are worried about the selection show, we're worried about cranking out these scouting reports to a bunch of coaches that are very, very hungry and they ready to get better. So, I think that was definitely something that helped us to develop as young coaches, because we never left the office. I mean, there would be times we would just spend the night with one another. Like we would just hang out together because we knew that what we had to do had to get done. And it wasn't any time limits. It wasn't like we was like, hey, you know, we've been here for 4 hours, man. Like, what are we going to do? We would say, hey, we've been here for 4 hours. Order a pizza. Let's get a pizza ordered up here. Let's get the practice players up here and let's get them to work on some stuff. So, you know, we became very creative because we knew that our position was so vital to the team being successful. If we don't get that film out, if we don't get the scouting report out, then preparation is going to be stalled. And if preparation is not in place, then celebration doesn't happen. So in order to celebrate, you got to prepare. You have to have preparation in order to have celebration. So we were always engulfed with preparation. And I think that's something that really helped us as young coaches.
That was a
Sure. And that came from the top because like Jeff was demanding of it, right? He wanted your best, but he also wanted you to be proactive and wasn't going to micromanage you. So he like gave you that kind of freedom to figure out, okay, like what does working hard mean? He set the tone for that, but what's that process look like? Like we had to go out and figure it out, you know, and we were trying to, you know, you want to give a good product and want to be on top of it because, you know, you want to get it to him before he asks. So the tone he set was crucial to get us spinning, you know?
Yeah, love that. Any more questions? As you can see, me and Matt, we could talk on here all day. We have basically grown up as coaches together. For anybody that didn't hear the story, Matt started out as my assistant on the video side. When I was at University of Louisville, he was my video coordinator and assistant. And then he actually moved into my position when I went and took a coaching job at Marshall University. So we pretty much came up together. I love being able to say that I helped him with an opportunity because he's a great coach and overall an even better person. And just being able to have a lifelong friend in the process is just a added blessing on top of that. So I always love these type of calls. But I'm gonna let somebody else hop in and ask a question because I know somebody else may have a question right now.
Hey, Matt. So I'll go ahead and ask one. I feel like there's an expectation, right, for me to ask a question on these calls.
It definitely is,
I was
Coach.
waiting to hear from you.
Yeah, right. True. No, I mean, I already learned a lot from you, you know, working with you this year. But I think one of the more intriguing things for me is like turning programs around, right? Which is like something obviously we're working on at EKU, but I know you've done at multiple places. What do you think are like, I know recruiting, obviously, but the big like first steps in turning around a losing program or like common threads you've seen in places you've been that have worked?
Yeah. So in the last like 5 or 6 years, we turned around Weber State. I went to Boston College on a new staff for a brief period, was at Binghamton on a new staff in Eastern Kentucky. So it's kind of been the entirety of my last 5 to 6 years is trying to build a program. I think a lot goes into the relationships kind of with the kids. Like in all those situations, there were a lot of players that we may not have recruited, and you got to try to get the most out of them and try to get them to, you know, buy into your culture as soon as possible. I think too that like what I've seen with the head coaches I've worked for is dividing up responsibilities and giving people ownership to go out and like do the best job on those that they can. Whether it be, you know, social media like you handle or scheduling or recruiting, organizing all of that, like being firm in an expectation and trusting the people that you got with you to get a good job done has been huge. And I think, you know, something that I've tried to do, like my responsibilities have changed everywhere. I've got my hands on pretty much everything, but each situation is unique. So I never really worry about what I'm doing. It's just like whatever it's expected of me or, you know, what they want me to do, I try to do it to the best of my ability. Some of those things have been uncomfortable. So like the first time that I got scheduling thrown my way, I didn't really know what was going on. But I do know that I'm going to research it more than probably a lot of people are going to. I'm going to put that time into like probably be annoying in some sense because I want to know the entirety of it. But like I'm going to figure it out. And now it's just kind of whatever, you know. So I think you just identifying what your responsibilities are and working as hard as you can on them is crucial when you're trying to rebuild it. Because if anything slips, the kids see that. So you got to have people around you that are bringing energy to it and on top of their job. And I think that when kids and everybody else in the program sees that everybody is invested and working really hard towards a goal, it kind of starts to set you up towards where you'll be going in the future.
Nice consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I could definitely speak to that because Matt will definitely want to know more. I remember when we would sit down and I would say, hey, we got to do this. We got to do that. He would say, okay, so how? I don't know, bruh. You just have to do it. You got to find out how to do it. There's nothing else for me to tell you. So I do know that sometimes, you know, we all may want, you know, detailed plans and different things to be able to follow through on. But in all actuality, like there are some things that you're not going to know. And just like Coach Thune just said, you have to look those things up and kind of look into those things and educate yourself in those matters.
Mm-hmm. I think that was big too with like how you would operate, right? Is, you know, we'd be in the office and you'd be like, we need to get the film up on the board live during practice, like the video board. And I'd be like, okay, how? Or that would probably be my initial note. You'd be like, just figure it out. We got to get it up there. And for you to like, there had to be a stress on you, right, to be able to get that product accomplished. But you also are like, just go, you know, trusting in people that work for you to go figure it out. So I think like, when you got to be comfortable with yourself and the people that you surround yourselves with. And, you know, if you got hard workers, they're going to get it done. You know, it might not be exact, but let them take pride in that work and encourage them to do so. Don't hamper on like the 5% that wasn't up to your standard, but give them the 95 that got the job done. And you always did that, which was big.
Yeah, I'm very huge on, you know, I don't care if it looks like what I want it to look like. I gave it to you because I want you to put your swag on it. I want you to put your stamp on it. So I never say, hey, I want this to look exactly the way that I would do it. Because if that was the fact, then I would go do it. So I always give anybody that I'm working with, if I'm doing anything with somebody else and it's a team collaboration, I love to give and empower somebody else to say, hey, this is your thing. You handle this. You make sure that this is up to par and in a different type of way. So I never come back and look and say, oh, that wasn't the way that I wanted it to be done. Did it get done? Is my question. It got done. Boom. Let's move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Any questions? Any questions?
We're going to take one more question for the day.
You know, when the wife speak, that's hey, that's what it is at that point. We go. I guess we taking one more question for the day.
For the day.
All right, or maybe not. Okay. All right. Well,
I'll jump in with one.
Let's go.
In terms of the international recruiting, what do you find to be the most difficult part of the process for you?
I would say, like, I'm in no way perfect with the international recruiting, right? There's so much you have to know. And continuing to try to have an understanding of all of the countries, everything that's in play is difficult. It's very difficult. What I've found is, like, I try to identify 3 to 4 to where I really focus in on because I can't handle it all. And I know the thing that I hate that kind of sucks about it is, you know, that there's kids out there that could help you. But I think if you stretch yourself too thin with it, there's just going to be too much information out there. Difficult, but, you know, something else that's difficult, but you can work through. The admissions requirements are always different. Working with embassies and different countries have different systems of education. You know, there's different people in charge in each country. So while in Mexico, there might be a process to getting documentation and kids into school that's more similar to the U.S., and we might be able to, you know, pinpoint who we need to talk to. You know, in Spain, that might be completely different. And like in Spain, they have a choice. They have to decide when they're in high school on 2 different kind of degrees they're going towards. If they go down one road, it could make them ineligible to play sports here. So identifying too early is, are these kids even, you know, is it even going to work out? Have they made the decisions up to this point academically to get here? And then just going through the documentation, like right now, something we're really struggling with given this current situation is we want all of our kids to be able to come to school. Well, the embassies are closed in some countries overseas. It's easier when you got to get something done in state or in your region, but right now, 6-hour time difference, language barrier, those sometimes can provide some difficulties in ensuring that your kids are going to be, getting into school on time.
Nice. Love that. Love that. And on top of that, you just had 3 commit. That's my guy. He just told us all of the things that can hurt that process, and he got 3 to commit it. So that's my guy right there. Love that. All right, that was a great question.
Yes, yes.
So this has been phenomenal, man. This international recruiting is something that we never really talk about on the Coaching Corner. This is actually the first time that we've been able to kind of touch into this area. And it's very intriguing. It's very helpful. Mm-hmm. And the information that you've been able to give us is it could really change your program. If you put these things and you implement these different things, you could actually change your program. So I love what you've been able to give us. Is there anything that you want to leave the coaches with as we close?
No, I appreciate everybody hopping on. It was fun talking with you and catching up, DP, like all the time. It was fun talking through things. But if anybody, has another question or would want to reach out, you can reach out to me, social media. My cell, if you want it, is 317-989-7545. You can give me a call.
Man, people are writing that down.
My bad.
Say it one more time.
317-989-7545. And, anything's cool. If you want to call or reach out by text or anything like that, open to talk to people all the time. So if there's any way that I could help, or if you want to continue talking about a certain thing, we can do that.
Love that. And we are thankful that everybody hopped on. We're thankful to have you, Matt. Very, very thankful that you've been able to share some time with us now that you're newly engaged and you're planning that wedding. Oh, man. Yep. Man, it's almost been a year, babe. We coming up on our anniversary.
Yes.
So we appreciate you spending some time with us. But we're gonna leave everybody on the call with some inspiration and some encouragement. Just make sure as you're going through different things that you take some time out for yourself. Sometimes we can really get compelled with different things that we want to accomplish, how we want to get better, who we want to help, but then you forget to help yourself. So in the midst of adversity, always remember that you have to fuel the car, and the car is you. You got to be the one to get yourself to the destination. If you got no gas, you ain't going nowhere. So take some time out and refuel and repump yourself up and encourage yourself sometime. Even David in the Bible said, sometimes I got to encourage myself. And if he's saying that and he was a king and a man after God's own heart, then I know that sometimes I got to encourage myself. So that's a little encouragement to anybody that needs a little pick me up. But we're thankful everybody hopped on. Thankful for Facebook as well. Everybody watching on Facebook.
Yes.
And we want to wish everybody a happy night, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Coach Matt. We appreciate
you guys.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep. We'll see ya.
All right.